My God, it's a Saturday morning and it's too early. Technical difficulties. Are we live? Are we live on this playoff Saturday? TJ in the house with me. We're missing one puckhead, but you know, it's a good time of the year when the sun is out. There's playoffs in all kinds of stuff, and here we go. So outside of a technical, what the hell, TJ, how the hell are you on this playoff Saturday?
I am here and I'm ready to party. This is like, so there are two times in the sports year that I love the most. One is October, when we have that little period of time, like a week or two, where everything's happening at once. That is just like nirvana. And the second time is this time right now, because what we are about to embark on for the next, 2 months is going to be the greatest tournament in organized sports. It always is, and I don't see any reason why this year's going to be any different.
Yeah, and so much, we come off the Masters, you come off March Madness, you get the start of baseball season. It's WrestleMania weekend for those that enjoy and partake in that. We've got playoff basketball not very far from us on today's calendar. And then, of course, I had to we're inside the 6-hour window now of puck drop between the Blues and the Winnipeg Jets to get the Stanley Cup playoffs going. Only 2 games today. Really kind of we dive. Good Lord, English is going to be fun for the next hour. As we dive into this here, yeah, it hasn't been the greatest morning for everybody in the hockey world as we get some early news. As let's take a second to kind of peel back here, Teach, before we dive into this. And of course, again, we're missing Vegas Mac today. He is traveling, so safe travels to the Mac clan. He will be back with us soon. We're going to do plenty of these during the Stanley Cup playoffs, but one of the best lines of all time and hashtag to one of the GOATs in the industry, Jim Rome. But if you're getting ready for work today, you're probably not Greg Cronin of the Anaheim Ducks. About a little over an hour ago, he was fired. No replacement named, obviously. I mean, because they have plenty of time because they're not participating with us today. But kind of an interesting situation. You and I were both there. Has it even been 2 weeks? Yeah, it's been about 2 weeks. But 35, 37, and 10 for the Ducks. They failed to qualify for the Stanley Cup playoffs for the 7th consecutive season. Now, we've talked about this a little bit with the situation in San Jose and the direction that they went with a team that is not close, and how long Ryan Warfowski is gonna be there. I don't think you disagree with me here. I don't know if Joe Cronin or Greg Cronin, I'm going to call him Joe a bunch of times if you get the college basketball reference there. I don't know if he was given the best of opportunities. I really kind of liked how the Ducks played down the stretch. Yeah. Needless to say, you got to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and like you said, he was kind of dealt a crappy hand. This team is full of young players. Like their defense is unreal right now, and it's only going to get better. Jackson LaCombe is going to be a star in this league. So, and they improved over last year. Like, they were bad last year. Like, they were unwatchable last year. This year, they were watchable. But yeah, he got dealt a bad hand, and you got to find somebody. They have to find somebody who they are going to get on the other side of this rebuild with. So,
I'm sorry, dude. Feel free to comment if you're watching along with us today as we go through the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I told you guys Vegas Mac was traveling, but he's going to make his voice known here. And there he pops up from our Facebook feed for the first time, and he's going to start with this one. We'll get to your favorite team, the Montreal Canadiens. In the red bracket that we will refer to, there is a red bracket, and then there is the Western Conference bracket as we break this playoffs down, if you catch what I'm saying. Before we get into the nuts and bolts of the matchups, Tej, we get to this point in the season. Some teams look forward to the draft lottery. Greg Cronin's looking forward to vacation. He won't be the only one. What was your biggest surprise kind of takeaway from the regular season as we get to this point now? For a lot of people, the best playoffs in any sport.
So I had 3 surprises. The first 2 are tied together in a way. First off, the Columbus Blue Jackets. The way they handled this season after last summer's tragedies was unreal. And yeah, they started off a little slow, and I kind of expected that. But for them to be in there until game 81, fighting for a playoff spot, was just incredible. And this team, kind of like Anaheim, rebuilding, and they have a lot of young stars too. Kent Johnson, Adam Fantilli. This team's going to be great as well. And that ties on with my second one, which was Montreal. Montreal just poured it on after the Four Nations. They just went on a heater. And they deserve to be in the playoffs. So as much as Mac doesn't like it, they deserve to be there. My third surprise was Winnipeg. It was literally 2 summers ago when people were getting jettisoned out of Winnipeg, and we were wondering, after Dubois got traded, we're wondering, okay, so is Scheifele next or is Hellebuck next? And instead, they re-up those guys to big tickets, and a year later, they're winning the President's Trophy. So those are my 3.
Somebody disable Vegas Max comment button, because I'm gonna wear out the mouse here. My biggest surprise, and obviously we'll get very deep into this, and I don't know if it's as much I was surprised as it was cool going into this season. And those of you that are joining us for the first time, thank you. Follow us on all of our social channels at Mike Arana Show. First time I get to do this today. Everywhere but Snapchat. TJ, can you inform our new guests with us today why we are not on Snapchat?
One, Snapchat sucks, and B, we're not 12.
Yes, that is the converted metric system for the postseason. TJ's haikus, for those of you that have never seen one of those will pop their face out here the first time somebody gets swept, and we'll tell you who we think that might be. But going into the season as a Sharks fan, it's been a brutal couple of years. Mike Greer was handed a flaming dumpster full of excrement that was rolling downhill, and he's done a fantastic job there. So being a little more biased, if you will, I guess you can say. I mean, I just like watching hockey, but going into the season with the expectation that the West was going to be really, really, really good, and then seeing how much better than I even expected it to be, and then Avengers Unite in Colorado, like the West lived up to every bit of the hype that I expected it to be. And one of the benchmarks and standards, if you will, in the West over the last handful of years has been Vegas, and how quietly Vegas just kind of petered their way through the season. And here we are into a postseason. By the way, for those of you going to game 1 at the Fortress, be ready for a long ass time to get in there. It's a little busy this weekend in Vegas, but for me, that was a surprise. I expected the West to be great. I expected it to be talented, expected it to be deep, and it was all of those things and then some. Of course, if there's surprises and excitement, Tej, there's another side to that. What was your biggest disappointment of the season. And again, Vegas Mac, for those of you that are with us and have been following us from the start, he is traveling, so I'm sure you're going to see his name pop up on the lower left or right hand side of your screen. That always confuses me. There's Vegas Mac's biggest surprise of the year was the collapse and implosion, if you will, of the Boston Bruins. But what was your biggest disappointment of this regular season that has now passed us?
For me, it wasn't even close. And I mentioned this the other day. It's the Nashville Predators. They were the big spender in the offseason. They grabbed Steven Stamkos, who we thought was on the scrap heap. They grabbed Jonathan Marchessault. They grabbed Brady Shea. And it's almost like they got their defensemen that they needed. They got a couple of really good, although a little bit, 30 plus, really good scoring forwards. And they just could never get it going. They started off horribly and it just went downhill from there. And if it wasn't for the Blackhawks, they would have finished dead last in the division. So that was my biggest disappointment because they came in with all the fanfare and they have look, they got Ryan O'Reilly, Stanley Cup winner there. They've got you got UC Saros, who is a great goaltender. And they just imploded. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in Music City this summer. I don't think they're that far away. I just think it fell apart early and they couldn't get the wheels back on.
Yeah, and I've said this to you several times. We were actually talking about it in, I think it was the second intermission. It's a little hazy from when we were at the pond for Sharks and Ducks, but I've said this. Nobody believes me, but we've seen this, especially we've seen it in hockey. We've seen it in every sport. When, for me, does Barry Trotz say, enough of this shit, and take care of business himself? Because that, I think, is something that we might not see it in the offseason here, but if they come out of the gates like catfish that don't have any mud or any water, they're just hanging around in the mud. Those of you that get the reference, thank you. It is early for me. I'm never up this early. I would not be shocked if they start slow, if that's the decision that they make. For me, the biggest disappointment, and I know people in this geographical area, some don't care. Some are happy to see it. Others were not happy to see it. It's the artist formerly known as the Arizona Coyotes. Now, I get it. You relocate. Relocation has all kinds of challenges. Just getting used to new sight lines, trying to find somewhere else to live. I mean, it literally yesterday was 1 year from when they showed up at the Delta Center for the first time, or whatever the hell it's called now. It's always going to be the Delta Center.
Still is.
Or yeah, whatever the hell. Is seeing where Utah finished. Because this team, and watching it from my teal-colored glasses, if you will, very good blueprint laid out by how the Yotes, now the Utah Hockey Club, clearly probably not going to be the Utah Yeti. That's for a different story, different day. But I thought that team was a hell of a lot closer than being distant. And, 7 points doesn't sound like a lot. They were never really in the mix this year. And I think that was my biggest disappointment. I mean, for me, it'd be easy to say the Predators because the best tight end in the National Football League is a huge Predators fan. George Kittle, shout out. But I think I expected so much more out of this Utah team because we had seen them kind of take the baby steps up the ladder. And to see where they finished, that to me was probably the most disappointing thing. I mean, it's easy at this point for you to sit here and go, well, yeah, I mean, Nashville, who you mentioned, Seattle, I think to a lot of people is disappointing. That roster was flawed. You should have seen that one coming.
The Rangers were
the Rangers, the Bruins, the Flyers. Yeah. I mean, there's a handful of them for sure. But I and maybe my expectations, just because we had seen them build it out slowly, and you know this better than anybody. You're literally wearing a shirt, but I think I expected so much more out of them, and I'm very interested to see what happens next year. And I mean, one thing to kind of get yourself going on the right path is pick a damn name of your team.
I got to tell you though, those blue and black colors really popped for me. But dude, I totally agree. They had some bad defensive injuries early on that held them back. But this team in year 5 of the, and I'm sure we'll talk about this in October, but this team in year 5 of the rebuild has to make the playoffs. It's a non-negotiable, or they're going to be some heads that are going to roll for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Before we get into maybe some changes we'd like to see, and I know you and I have got some definite thoughts on this. I mean, one thing that caught your eye that kind of stood out to you as either a key piece going into the postseason or just a key piece going forward. And I'm pretty sure I know what your surprise is, but I'm going to let you skate in the open ice with this one, buddy.
This whole Mikko Rantanen thing was such a mess, and and it was. We started here in October, November. He's probably gonna get traded. I'm like, there's no way he gets traded. Colorado offers him a big ticket. He says no, and then he gets traded, and then he gets traded again because he doesn't want to play in Carolina. So it's kind of like one of those things where we're not going to trade you inside the division, but we're going to trade you inside the division. But the ticket that Dallas wrote for him was literally $2.5 million more than what Colorado wrote for him. And so I'm wondering if he would have known that at the time. Does he even go and go through all this and just sign the deal to begin with? I mean, I can think of 100 reasons I'd rather live in Colorado rather than Dallas, but that's me. I'm not sure this is going to work out, but I hope for the best for him. But that was just such a mess. And that was like months long too, because it was not only the Colorado to Carolina part, but then it was the Carolina to Dallas part in March. So this thing lasted nearly the entire year.
Veteran move by you, by the way, to talk about how you'd rather live in Colorado than Dallas, knowing the inside joke that you're going to Colorado here soon. Very, very veteran savvy move by you. But
you don't live in Cleveland, you live in Cincinnati.
Obviously, we'll get into the Battle of Rantanen. I mean, it's incredible when you break down this postseason layout in the teams that we have and I'll steal one of Mac's lines here, in the tournament. When you see all these little sub stories to everything, the biggest thing that caught my eye this year, Tej, and I'm going to use the game that we were at a couple weeks ago together as a reference point here. It's the continued growth of the NHL. They again set another benchmark for attendance. I'm really, really interested to see what this postseason brings to the table, because the two best words in sports, as we know, are Game 7. And a Game 7 in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I can go through some hell stories on this. I can go through some great stories on this. Losing multiple overtime games to Dallas in the postseason as a Sharks fan. Anybody remember Game 7 of the Sharks Knights series? Ring a bell to anybody? So I'm really interested to see how the success of the league translates to the postseason here, because the four nations, and I know you weren't the biggest fan of it. I think that brought a lot of casual eyeballs back to hockey. How do they handle that going forward? Future Olympic years. What do they do with the All-Star game? Maybe they're the sport that finally goes, hey, we don't need to do the All-Star thing here because we have something. It's that continued growth of a league, and everybody says, well, nobody likes hockey and nobody watches hockey. Well, I beg to differ in this situation. And again, and there you go. Vegas Mac off of our X account, or off of his X account right there. So
he's all over the map today.
He's all, I mean, it's Vegas Mac. I mean, hell, his 60 and 60 today. If you haven't seen it on our social channels, it's up right now. We were having some TikTok issues this morning, so it'll be up on TikTok here in a little bit. But it's, for me, I'm really interested to see how it translates to the postseason here.
Mhm.
And we can say this and, oh, you old heads, I can hear that comment coming. But and Jason Robertson, as we'll get into the Avalanche and the Stars who get going tonight, but he's out. And Peter DeBoer said they asked him, how long he's going to be out, and it's he might miss 2 games because for some ridiculous reason, and we know what it is, it's money driven. But as you know, the first round of both the NBA and NHL postseason seemingly take us past Cinco de Mayo every year. So you can have a lower body injury and only miss 2 games, but that's what I'm most interested to see. And that was the biggest surprise, is to see hockey and see it keep growing in a time where Rob Manfred, who is an absolute dipshit, is single-handedly ruining baseball. Adam Silver's got his problems. Roger Goodell continues to print money in back rooms. And that's what I'm looking forward to. We were at a game between Anna, and this will lead us, I'm sure, into a conversation of what do we want to see changed before we get into these matchups specifically. We're at a Tuesday night game between 2 of the worst teams in hockey, the Ducks and the Sharks. The building was half full. And I know you got into the building a little bit after I did. You had some commitments before, so you missed most of the first period. I thought you made great time. And anybody that's in the Southern California area driving anywhere with needing to get there at a certain point in time is challenging. If I would have blindfolded you and walked you into that building for those 2 teams on a Tuesday night at the end of the season, half full, the energy in there was ridiculous.
Yeah.
That being said, the game went to overtime, Tej, and it went to a shootout. And I'm gonna set you up with a wide open net here, dude. Give me the one thing that you want to see changed, because I'm pretty sure the 2 things that we want to see changed going forward probably play off of each other. But give me a change before we dive into the Battle of Ontario is where we're going to start today.
Can I please have a different playoff format, please?
No shit.
Please. Look, I'm going to be in the building on Wednesday night when the Kings play the Oilers, but this is the 4th year in a row that I've had to deal with this. The 4th year in a row. And if I was a Kings fan, like a diehard Kings fan, I'd be beside myself, because you haven't been able to beat the Oilers 3 times in a row. We'll talk about what we think later, but I mean, come on. Like, how many times do we have to see this? How many times? Why are we seeing matchups like Colorado and Dallas that should be 2nd or 3rd round matchups? Why are we seeing them now?
Yeah,
it's not
exactly.
It's not like you've built up the rivalries. That's what this whole thing was designed to do. But are Edmonton and LA really rivals? I mean, I don't know.
It's the whole hammer and nail theory, One's the hammer, exactly. One's the nail.
So that's what I would like. I'd like to see it go back to 1 through 8, or even like let's go 1 through 16, and let's throw out the conferences. Like it was super fun.
Where is my
in 2021? I know
you keep going. I'm gonna pull up your text from yesterday.
It was super fun in 2021 when they had to redo the divisions because of the COVID stuff and all that. But it was super fun to see Tampa Bay play Montreal in the final. That was super cool, because that will never happen again. It will never happen because they're in the same conference. But it was cool for that year for it to happen. And I think that if you reseeded 1 through 16, that would be an amazing playoff. And do it once and see what happens, right? We're in an age where we're putting ghost runners on bases. Like, let's just see what happens and see what happens with the popularity of the result. And if it sucks, go back to what we have now.
Yeah, I mean, well, you use the 4 nations as an example. Try it once and see what happened. There's a lot of people that would say that the league's success this year had a lot to do with the 4 nations. So this is your text message here.
And by the way, I ate it. I'm going to eat the crow on that, because I was completely wrong. I was completely wrong on the Four Nations. That ending was awesome.
Yeah, it was. So to use your theory here, we would have Winnipeg and Montreal, Washington and Jersey, Vegas and Ottawa, Toronto and St. Louis, Dallas and Minnesota, the Kings and the Panthers, Tampa Bay and Carolina, and Colorado and Edmonton, which would be great because, don't mind me here, hockey is an American sport, and that would be a great way to just eliminate all the Canadian teams right away. I kid.
Right in the first round.
Yeah.
Right in the first round.
I kid. Maybe I don't. Overtime. Now, this is my favorite time of the year because you could start watching a game at 7 o'clock on the West Coast. So late, 10 o'clock on the East Coast for all you East Coast people. That might not end for 5 or 6 hours. But I'm telling you right now, not because the Sharks won that game that I referenced a few minutes ago against the Knights. That was one of the better hockey games I've ever seen in my damn life. But the overtime thing, we and again, I'll use the most recent physical game that I've been to, since I don't have a team down the road from me anymore to go watch. Alex Morello, you're a dipshit. You get this great game, and then we go to the overtime, and Frank Vetrano.
Oh, the overtime is fab.
Frank Vetrano right in front of us. But, a couple of great scoring opportunities, and then we go into the shootout, and I don't remember the two guys for the Ducks right now. I had a few Michelob Ultras, a few handfuls of Michelob Ultras, but we see two guys from the Ducks go down with not a care in the world. Like they're on a Sunday skate with their family out on the backyard pond. And again, they were shooting off of Great Value Georgiev, so it was bound to happen at any point. The slowest moving, lack of anything by both of these guys on the last two shots. And it was just such a buzzkill for such an incredible game. You know what? Give me 10 minutes of overtime. 10 minutes of overtime. Let's go 4-on-4 to start, and then let's go 3-on-3 halfway through, and then there we go. Or put a shot clock, put a timer on the guys in the shootout format. You shouldn't be able to skate down like you don't give a shit, for lack of a better term, is what it looked like, to go, toss a puck on a net. Like it was just such a buzzkill for what was a really entertaining hockey game. Some people don't like the 4-on-4. You saw a comment from Vegas Mac there a couple minutes ago. Like now he's remember your comments about putting a quarter in Vegas Mac and just letting him go.
Oh yeah.
There's another
here
one.
Here he goes.
Let the goalies shoot. The guy who thinks everything gimmicky sucks in sports wants goalies shooting in a shootout now. Unbelievable, Mackenzie. Unbelievable. That's something. And the 1-through-8 playoff format, I think we absolutely need to go back to that, because again, like not to this isn't a prediction. This is a spoiler for you WrestleMania fans this weekend. I am a Paul Heyman guy, but you don't get to the point where what I thought as we were getting ready for this show, my Stanley Cup final and my two conference finals, that let me just throw it out there, boom, put it down. Okay, these are the final four teams. And I'm not going to get that because two of them are playing in the West first round, and two of them are playing in the East first round. That's a problem. I don't think it made the interdivisional rivalries any better. Call me crazy. I just don't think it did what Gary Bettman and company were expecting it to do. It's time to move on and time to change something. All right. You ready for this? You ready to sharpen the blades here?
It's going to be the
Battle
fastest,
of Ontario and the
fastest
fighting
30 minutes in sports.
The Fighting Maple Leafs and the Ottawa Senators. Ottawa won the season series 3-0, and they outscored Toronto 9-3. What's your first thought when you jump out at this Battle of Ontario between Toronto and Ottawa?
So the first thing that I think of is you've got an up-and-coming Ottawa team who is kind of half happy to be there, although this is part of the plan when they got rid of DJ Smith. They thought that this team should be here at this point. Versus a team that is in its 9th year of Austin Matthews and its 10th year of Mitch Marner, believe it or not. And they have literally won as many playoff series in that time as the Arizona Coyotes did. They have literally won the same number of playoff series. And so you're at a point with the big 4+1, if you count Morgan Riley, like this team, it's Stanley Cup or bust for the Buds. It is Stanley Cup or bust. They have to win. Meanwhile, you got Brady Tkachuk, who last year was slamming beers in the stands watching his brother, and now he's going to be out there actually playing. And we'll see what's happening with Matthew later. But this is a fascinating matchup because of the dichotomy of the two teams. A very veteran-laden team in Toronto that's been here before, and like they go through the regular season just to get to the playoffs, and then you have Ottawa, who they had to fight tooth and nail to get in there, and now they're here, and now let's see what happens.
Yeah, this is the first time in the postseason that they've met since 2004. In that series, the Maple Leafs won that one as well for the 4th time in 4 playoff meetings between the two teams. So obviously up in Canada, this is a big deal. I don't think it gets to the rest of us here in the States as much. This is a big time deal up there.
Oh, yeah.
And again, like all the talent in the world doesn't guarantee you wins. You know, it's the interesting thing. We talked in our baseball preview show about the Dodgers. You can build a super team all you want. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to win anything. And I think the same, I think hockey and baseball are similar in that way. Like pucks don't bounce the same. Balls don't roll down the foul lines the same. Like this is a dangerous spot, I think, for the Leafs, because you can't lose this to Ottawa. I mean, you lose to Ottawa with the past failures of the most recent couple of years. You lose to Ottawa, and it's going to cost not one person a job, a few different people a job. And I think this is one that is going to fly under the radar with the first round matchups. And I'm really, really interested to see what happens. But, you know, let's start on the Maple Leaf side, because they're always the talking point here. Tell me what the Maple Leafs have to do. Jesus. I'm going to turn the comments off if it says Mackenzie on it. You'll appreciate this one. You'll appreciate that one. But, like, what does Toronto have to do to win this series? Because there's a lot of eyeballs on the Leafs, as there usually are, but even more so now.
So 72% of their goals are scored by 6 players on their team. Those guys need to produce. They just have to. And if you throw, and that's throwing in there Bobby McMahon and the usual suspects, right? Marner, Matthews, Nylander, etc. Those guys throw in Nyes too. They have to produce. They have to score. That's just the bottom line. They have to score. The other thing that they have to do is in their defense, and their defense is really banged up. They will probably get Jake McCabe back for game 1. OEL, they don't know yet if he's going to be ready for game 1. Their defense has got to key in on Brady's line. They have to neutralize that line. The goaltending, the good thing about the Leafs is if they score enough goals, their goaltending, and I think we've talked about this with other teams before, if they score enough goals, their goaltending doesn't have to be great. It just has to be effective. And I think if they can get off to a good start and take game 1 and take it soundly, I think that's going to be the good start that they need to get rolling.
Yeah, and Greg Wyshynski, I think, probably nailed it the best as far as the mindset of the Leafs into the playoffs. Again, Greg Wyshynski from ESPN. And he literally wrote, and I'm going to read this verbatim here. To beat Toronto, an opponent needs to put some fear and doubt in the Leafs. That was easy for a team like Boston, who basically just had to step on the ice and get in their heads. He goes on to basically say, the Leafs know that the Senators aren't on their level. That's what's interesting for me about this series is they know that they're not on their level.
Mm-hmm.
How much more pressure does that add to you in that case? Because you are expected to wipe the ice with the Senators, and the Senators are not going to sit here and just go, oh yeah, no big deal. I mean, we're happy to be here. No, they're playing Toronto. I mean, Ottawa couldn't have asked for a better draw to get them going in the postseason than Toronto, because there's your Stanley Cup final. Because I think both of us would sit here and admit to each other right now, neither one of these teams are winning the cup. Let's just get that out of the way. Shocking. Breaking news here on the Mike Arana Show on this early Saturday morning. Toronto and Ottawa, you are not winning the cup. Felt like something off of a Maury Povich thing there. Let's flip it, though. What does Ottawa have to do to win the series? Before we go official on it.
Ottawa has to have the best goaltender in the series, and Linus Ullmark was a fantastic pull for them in the offseason, trading him away, getting him from Boston. He has to be the best goaltender in the series. That's going to be tough go because Anthony Stolarz has been outstanding. He led the league in save percentage this year. But Toronto's goaltending has been like kind of I mean, he's got almost a 930 save percentage, and you look at him and they're like, they're not that. But it's because it may be because Toronto's goaltenders, like not a whole lot of people know who the heck they are. Stolarz won a cup last year with Florida. But Linus Ullmark has to steal games. Brady Tkachuk needs to, if this team, let's say this team, the Senators get down 5-1 in the third, he's got to keep control because Brady Tkachuk is the type of player who could go out there and just start going after people. And if he gets suspended or something goes sideways, that team is done. That being said, the Senators' third line with Greg and Pinto and Amadio is freaking unreal. Mm-hmm. For a third line to roll those guys out behind Stützle and Batherson and those players, that third line is pretty special. So if they can neutralize some of the big guns with Toronto, that opens up an opportunity for Ottawa. But like you said, as much like Ottawa, yeah, they're happy to be here, but all the expectations are on Toronto. Toronto is the team that's supposed to win the East. Toronto is the team that's supposed to go to the Cup final. There's no pressure on Ottawa. They're with house money right now.
House money is the best money to play with. Let's put it on paper. And those of you joining us, thank you. Again, follow us on all of our social channels at Mike Arana Show. Feel free to throw your thoughts, your predictions in the comments here, because we're going to be doing a couple of these during the Stanley Cup playoffs at various different dates and times. And then, of course, in our regular content on our social channels, depending on the day of the week and what's going on, we'll have more there. So we're only going to make our first round and finals predictions today. So Mac has Toronto over Ottawa 4-2. As much as I think there's immense pressure on the Leafs, talent is talent, and Toronto is 10 times more talented than Ottawa. I'm interested to see the future of Tkachuk in Ottawa, and if his future address happens to be in Sunrise, Florida, which I think is the obvious for everybody. I honestly wouldn't be shocked if this is a sweep. I am going to take the Leafs in 5 games. You're welcome, Ottawa. That probably means you're going to the second round of the postseason. What is your pick in this series, Teach?
I've got Toronto in 6. I think this is going to be a very intense series. I think it's going to be a hard-hitting series, but talent is talent, and I think the Leafs are loaded with it. And I think the Senators have talent, but they're just not ready yet. I think this is the Leafs in 6.
Now, if you've noticed the theme here, if you look at the brackets, and by the way, get your bracket in on NHL.com before we get going today here in about, we are now under the 5-hour mark for first puck drop between St. Louis and Winnipeg. Get your bracket in because you can win a trip to an NHL event of your choice next year if you enter the bracket on NHL.com. But you'll look at the eastern side of the bracket.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to tell you right now that a red or blue team will advance to the Stanley Cup Finals, especially if you look at the Eastern bracket, if you know what I'm talking about. Since everything's a battle in this year's postseason, how about a battle of Florida, which very likely should be the Eastern Conference Finals? It's not, but we know from past years, if Tampa and Florida are on your television, even if you can't watch the whole game, folks, give it 10 minutes. I guarantee you're going to see at least a big hit or two, more than likely probably a fight. These two teams, no strangers to each other, and a lot would say two of the top three teams in hockey, the two best teams in the East. First thoughts on the Battle of Florida?
It starts on Tuesday, which is huge for Florida. Absolutely huge. Florida has, after
so you say?
Florida, Matthew Tkachuk, he has to get healthy, and he hasn't played since the Four Nations. So the more time that he gets to get right, and even that the rest of that team, Aaron Ekblad has to get right too. He's not expected to be back until Game 3. So the more time that they get to rest, the better off it is for Florida.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, no, that's going to piss off too many people. All right. So here's the thing with these two. Defense is optional, which is great. I mean, that's fantastic. Defense is optional for Florida, and that's worked to their advantage for the most part, but it's not going to get you by Tampa. And the last couple years, I know because I've had money on them to win it all. It hasn't worked out necessarily great. Short travel here, same time zone, not a whole lot of variables, just good old-fashioned hockey hate. You know, the thing for me is I wonder, and we see this all the time, how much of that run that Florida went on last year comes into play this year. The Tkachuk situation, you know, we haven't seen him since the Four Nations. Maybe there's your counter to the Four Nations being good or bad is, you know, we've seen a couple of guys with lingering injuries from that. You're never going to be able to tell a hockey player, hey, don't go all out. That's just not what they do. So we've got so many storylines in this series. I think we could sit here for an hour and talk about this series, but let's get right to the point. What does Tampa Bay have to do to win the series?
Well, Tampa Bay leads the league in goals for. So we know that they can put the puck in the net, but they need to have players. And your guy, Jake Gensel, was an unreal pickup for the Lightning this year. But they need their two guys that they picked up at the deadline, Bjorkstrand and Gord. They've struggled a little bit to get the puck in the net. They need to be big in this. And Yanni Gord won a cup with Tampa Bay before. That's why they went and got him back. So those are going to be big. Nick Paul, he's got a pretty decent ticket for a third line player. He's got to be a scorer as well. But the cool thing for Tampa is all they have to do is hold serve at home, and they can win this series. And that is going to be that barn. These barns are going to be ridiculous. Holy cow! This I can't wait to watch this because the atmosphere is going to be off the chart. Secondary scoring, hold serve at home, shut down the Barkov line. They should be in good shape. The thing for Florida is Florida takes a lot of penalties. So. And if you got Kucherov out there on the power play, man, I like your chances.
Yeah, that line, and thank you for bringing up my hockey man crush outside of somebody wearing teal. Jake Gensel is like, this guy's on TV I'm watching, and that line with Gensel, Point, and Kucherov. I mean, there's not many better lines in hockey.
No,
Vasilevsky, we've seen him in the postseason when he's been standing on his head, to use the hockey term, lack of a better one right now. The last couple of years, not great for him. This year, he kind of looks like the guy that, oh shit, he's doing it again. And that's bad news for a Florida team that I don't know how much gas they have in the tank. And we talk about how, and there's a lot of people that wanted to see this. I think the two of us included wanted to see this as an Eastern Conference final. I think the thing that saves Florida in this, if my premonition on them that they could be running out of gas and last year's run's going to catch up with them, I think the thing that saves them here is the juice that they're going to have because they are playing Tampa right away. So it's a catch-22. It's one of these teams isn't going to be around in 4 months when the first round ends, but it's enough to get the juice going there. Mm-hmm. I'm really concerned about both of these teams in the next round, whichever one advances, because we've seen this out of the two of them. Just physical. They're going to beat the holy hell out of each other. They don't like each other. The fans are clearly separated on the two teams. It is a fantastic rivalry. And I know, and I'm saying this, the common hockey fan watching this is like, well, no shit, you're not telling us. We know because we've seen the numbers this year. There's new people watching hockey. And I'm telling all of you new people watching hockey, A, you came in at a perfect time this year and this postseason. And B, this is going to show you a lot of what you want to see. What do the Panthers have to do to win the series before we make some predictions and get moving along here?
Let's see if Tkachuk actually is ready for game one. This team is completely different with Matthew Tkachuk. I think we saw it last year. We saw it in 2023 when he was injured, and they literally ran out of gas in the final against Vegas that year. And the Panthers were 13-12 without him. Not great. You have to go. You go 16-11 in the play. You're going to win the cup. So you got it. You got to win at a better clip. So let's see if Tkachuk comes back because he's going to make a huge difference. This team had a downturn in offense this year, and I don't think it's coincidental with Matthew Tkachuk being out of the lineup. They got to get that. They got to get other players going, though. Carter Verhaeghe has to get going, and he's been a big player in the playoffs, so I expect a lot out of him if I'm Florida. Evan Rodriguez, last year in the final, we were talking about him as a potential Conn Smythe winner because he came up with some big goals. He's got to be big, but the defense has to stand up. Gustav Forsling has been outstanding this year, but when you think about it, Mike, they lost Brandon Montour, who was one of their biggest defenders last year. They lost to Oliver Ekman-Larsson, and they just lost him in free agency. They had to pick who they were going to pick. They kept the Sams. So this defense, we'll see if Aaron Ekblad is ready to go. If he's not, this is going to be a huge mountain for them to climb. And I think they have a little bit of a hangover from last year. I think that's fair to say. They played a lot of games last year and the year before that. So we saw it with the Blackhawks too, when they started, when the games, not like the intensity, but just the volume of the games. Mm-hmm. When you're playing 110 games every year, that adds up after a while. And they were in the final in 23. They went 7 in the final last year to win. They might just, like you said, be worn out.
Mm-hmm. Vegas Max got Tampa in 7. And I think that's a fairly popular pick. Mm-hmm. For me, I love it's funny because I'm an offensive guy. Basketball, I want to see scoreboards broken. I want to see points. I want to see 50 to 48 games. I'm not a defensive guy. That being said, Vasilevsky, if he's back to a couple of years ago, this is a dangerous hockey team that hasn't played as many games as the Panthers. I'm going to take the Bolts, and I'm going to take the Bolts in 6.
Mm-hmm. First in goals for, third in goals against. Vazzy's back to his old ways. Big acquisitions at the deadline again. I got Tampa, but I got this game going. This is a long one. It's going to go 7. It's going to be a bloodbath. I can't wait.
Next one in the all red everything is Montreal, Vegas Mac's favorite team, the Canadiens, and the Washington Capitals. Mm-hmm. And this is an interesting one. You and I talked about this yesterday when we were, just making sure we had some semblance of a plan today. I I think it would be very easy for people to look at Washington's record and go, well, they're probably going to advance through. I don't know if I'm necessarily convinced that. Here's my thing with the Capitals. Ovi's chase, breaking Gretzky's record was great for the sport. I think probably had a lot to do with some of those attendance boosted numbers. I mean, a lot of people wanted to be there the night they saw history. I'm about to mute Vegas Mac. His thoughts on this series. Not that you haven't seen them already, but I'm and to speak of Vegas Mac here, my first thing when I think of this, and Mac said it on one of his 5-hole segments, and we got a few comments and some flack about it. He had concerns about 2 months ago with the goaltending situation for the Caps. Ovi's chase. Montreal barely squeaks their way into the playoffs. Washington won the regular season series. Everything would tell you, at least on paper, but the Capitals move on. And I don't know if this one is that easy. First thoughts here on, let's call this the battle of just red teams.
You can call it the battle of the red, white, and blue.
There you go.
This is a very fast for a 1v wildcard 2 matchup. This series is going to be fascinating because you have a team that has basically played 2 months of playoff games versus a team that has coasted into the playoffs. Washington has not been great. They haven't in this whole great 8 chase or whatever. They're 4-8 in their last 12. Is that how you want to come into the playoffs at 4-8 for a team that was sniffing the President's Trophy? I don't think that that's a good look for Washington. Montreal is young, they're hungry, but they're not battle tested. Washington is battle tested in the past. Washington Washington backdoored their way into the playoffs last year on the last day, and then they were promptly dispatched. Now they're 6 points out of the President's Trophy race. Do you think that they've improved that much? I don't know, man. I think this Washington team, I'm not buying all the hype on this Washington team just yet.
Can I interest you in jogging your memory back? Well, let's just throw you out here. 2010. Does that sound familiar when it comes to these two teams? For those of you that maybe weren't even old enough to watch and understand what was going on, but that was when Montreal upset Washington. And I'm kind of seeing, the more and more I think about this, and maybe I'm overanalyzing it, the more and more I think about this, the more and more I can draw similarities to that 2010 upset of the Capitals. And I think, again, a lot of what happened with the Caps this year was kind of hidden by the chase. They just happened to be playing good hockey on top of that and vaulted them. And they played this perfectly. So hats off to the Caps here. You get close enough to the President's Trophy, but that's not the one you want. Trust me, because I've experienced the downside of that pile of crap before. Piece of metal, if you will. To use one of Rob Manfred's terms here. What does Washington have to do to win this series? Which is, I'm interested to see which way all three of our picks here go on this one.
Yeah, I think this series is closer than a lot of people are giving any credit to. Look, they got to get over this hangover. Like the bands that make good dance. That has to go out the window now. Because like the regular season is one thing, but you're not gonna have Juicy J in the locker room with you. It's the first one to 16 now. Logan Thompson's injury is a huge deal. Don't know if he's gonna be ready for any of this series. So Charlie Lindgren's got to be huge. Luckily, Lindgren's played about half the season. He's looked pretty good, but once again, a lot of offense hides defensive deficiencies, if you will. My X factor here is Dylan Strome. He's a point-a-game player now. And when he was in Arizona, nobody ever thought he would be a point-a-game player. So he has been outstanding. He needs to keep it up. And this is going to be one of his, I think this is his first, maybe his second time in the playoffs. He's got to be ready to play. And I think he's going to be okay.
Yeah. And the guy I look at the most here for the Caps is Spencer Carberry. You know, there's a lot of people, and I mentioned it yesterday when I was previewing the NBA's West for this weekend. And I do believe this 1,000%, at least as far as the NBA goes. And I wanted to get your take on this. But coaching matters in the NBA in the postseason. Matters a lot. Now, hockey, it's a little different setup. Not as many interactions with your coach in a timeout, in a halftime kind of setup. There's just not as many breaks for those kind of adjustments. You got to do it on the fly in the 60-second shift. Spencer Carberry, I think, has a lot of pressure on him here. It's a pretty calm guy for the most part. And then you've got a veteran like Ovi. I'm really interested to see what this group does if they start to stumble, if they fall down 1-0, if you will. What's your keys for Montreal to win the series?
Well, that first line of Suzuki, Slafkovsky, and Caulfield just needs to keep putting pucks in the net. That first line since the Four Nations has basically carried that team. Like their backs should all hurt because they've been carrying the offense. It was really cool to see Caden Gould get a couple of goals the other night. They do need to get some more action from that secondary scoring. Lane Hudson, there's going to be a lot of pressure on him on defense because this is his first go. He's a rookie and this is his first go. He's not going to get they're going to be after him. Like when Quinn Hughes was a rookie, they're going to be after Hudson. They got to stay out of the penalty box because the Caps power play was not great, but we all know who's out there for 2 minutes every time the Caps are on the power play. Mm-hmm. And we all know where hundreds of those 896 goals were scored. So they got to stay out of the box there. And the goalies just have to steal games. They have to. And it wasn't too long ago when I'm watching Montembeault and going, who the hell, he looked like the reincarnation of Carter Hutton. He was so bad, but he has improved so much over the last couple of seasons. And I think a lot of that has to do with Martin St. Louis put him in positions to be successful. So that's what I think Montreal has to do.
All right. Needless to say, I know this isn't going to shock anybody because of his personal campaign of attacking Montreal. Mac has Washington. His comment, Washington is better. I'm not gonna repeat what he texted me about Montreal, but I've got the Habs and I've got them in 6. I'm not buying this Washington team. I think this team took so much energy and used the chase all year to kind of propel them forward. Mm-hmm. And I can see that kind of going like that now. I've got the Habs and I've got them in 6, partially because I think that's legitimately what's going to happen. And the other reason is I want to see Mac go through the absolute torture and hell of Montreal advancing to the next round. Who do you got before we finish up the East?
The center bell would be is going to be on fire in Game 3. And I don't like how Washington is playing right now. I think it's terrible, but this is a veteran team. Pierre-Luc Dubois has been a great ad, and a guy who's on his 4th team in 4 years, by the way. He's been a great ad. He seems to have been rejuvenated. Jacob Chikrin is playing. He just got a nice big ticket. He's been playing great. And talent is talent in this. I got the Capitals. I have it in 6. I think it's a tough series. I think it's a longer series. I think it's a couple overtime games, but I think the Caps come out on top in this one.
Again, feel free to comment, throw in your predictions here in the comments.
Somebody take Mac's phone away from him. Holy smokes.
Yeah. He's going to lose signal at some point. Don't worry about it. He's got to be getting close. Hey, can I interest you in an Eastern Conference playoff series that pits 2 red teams against each other? Because if you didn't like my last model, I've got another one for you. New Jersey, Carolina. Carolina, the absolute biggest enigma in the world for me, has been for a bunch of years. Can I just get somebody that played on the San Jose Sharks for all those times that we were so close. Can I get somebody a ring? Burnsy's the only one left. Pickles just retired on me. Pavelski retired. This is an interesting series here, TJ. And I think it might be the most interesting first round series. The one I can't wait to see, we've already talked about. It's Florida and Tampa, and that brings its own whatever to the table. This one's very interesting and very hard to get a read on. First thoughts, Devils and Canes.
Yeah, I'm curious because the Devils, look, when Jack Hughes went down, everybody was like, oh, the Devils are done. Mm-hmm. And they get on the back of Nico Hischier. And they lost Dougie Hamilton too, and Jonas Siegenthaler on defense. So they're dropping. The Devils are dropping like flies. But somehow with Hischier and Markstrom goes on a little bit of a run, this team is in it. And I'm going to tell you what, the Devils have a really good chance here. They have an extraordinary chance here. That's how much of an enigma Carolina is, by the way.
Yeah, I think this is extremely dangerous for Carolina here. Like, if they have any lapse or lack of focus, a bad couple of shifts, one bad start to overtime. I think if you're looking for a series that you're going to see some overtime games in, this is your series. I think Carolina is in a very, very dangerous spot here. And for a team that has had a lot of hype and a lot of expectations over the last couple of years and really hasn't been able to cash in that chip yet. My God, last year, how bad? I mean, how much did I talk your two ears off wanting to see Dallas and Carolina in the final? I mean, this Carolina team, it's shit or get off the pot time for them. I think this is dangerous here. What does Carolina have to do to win the series?
Carolina, to put it in terms of another sport, I think the Carolina Hurricanes are very analogous to the Buffalo Bills. Like, all these expectations, you got the great players. They got Svechnikov. Now they have Taylor Hall. You got all these fantastic players on defense. You seem to finally have everything together. And then there's just like one thing that goes sideways. Is it the goaltending, which is, it's all right. If I'm a Carolina Hurricanes fan, I'm like excited about the postseason, but I'm wondering what it's going to be in a couple of weeks. What's going to go sideways? What's going to end my dream? Carolina needs to play as much 5-on-5 hockey as possible. They are hands down the best 5-on-5 team in the league. Their expected goals percentage is far and away above 50% and way better than anybody else. But this is how, going back to your statement, how much of an enigma they are. Their power play stinks. You're being nice. Awful. That is so bad.
How bad is it?
It's freaking god awful. They're 25th in the league, which is crazy when you think about all the players, all the offensive power that they have. I mean, they got Sebastian Aho, you got Logan Stankoven, and you've got Svechnikov, you got Brent Burns to run it, you got Shane Gostisbehere to run power play 2. Why is this power play so bad? And that's very, very concerning for me if I'm Carolina. So you just got to play 5-on-5. If you play 5-on-5, you're going to win.
Let's look at this from the Devils' standpoint here. I think you've brought up some good points, and the flip to it is literally exactly something you just said. New Jersey's penalty kill, about as good as it gets, literally. And that's probably where this series gets decided. But couple of great song and movie line references here. Give me 3 ways New Jersey wins this series. I've been waiting for you to do this one.
Oh, captain, my captain, Nico Hischier needs to score. He had a nice 69 points this year, but when Jack Hughes went down, it became his team, him and Jesper Bratt. They need to come through, and they need to be the leaders. them and give me fuel, give me fire, give me Timo Maya. They need to come correct. Number 2, Dougie Hamilton's coming back, so you got to teach me how to Dougie. This defense is going to be very, very happy that he's back, but he's also great on the power play. So that's huge for the Devils. If this game gets into a special teams battle, the Devils are going to win because their power play is great and their penalty kill is great. So if this starts getting into special teams, New Jersey's going to steal this series. Dawson Mercer, Eric Halla, they need to score as well. And Markstrom has to be the best player on the ice.
And you this is something that you have said a lot. And I know your partner, General McDavid, has said this a lot, and General McDavid's team has a problem with exactly this. Secondary scoring has got to scare the absolute piss out of you if you're a Devils fan, because are you going to get it or are you not going to get it? And no sense wasting time in Mac's pick here. He's got the Whalers in 6. I hate this because I honestly think that if we could have seen this series with a healthy Jack Hughes, I think we're having a different conversation. I am taking the Hurricanes because the Whalers aren't a team anymore, Mac. Taking the Canes in 5, and it's literally because of the lack of Jack Hughes.
I'm taking the Hurricanes. I'm taking it in 6. I don't think there's going to be a whole hell of a lot of goals scored here, but that's what I've got.
Go west, young man, where we're told that California is full of people like TJ and gold and actual color in the bracket. And let's start with the President's Trophy. Why is that word hard to say? President's Trophy winners, the Winnipeg Jets. And maybe, very likely, depending on who you talk to, the hottest team in the National Hockey League right now, the Blues de St. Louis. This is an interesting one here because Winnipeg basically steamrolled anything in their path this season. Postseason is a different season. Winnipeg did win the series on the season 3-1. Do you put a ton of stock into regular season matchups in the Stanley Cup playoffs? Is my first question as we dive into this one.
Yes and no. Yes, if it's recent and if the teams are playing at their best and fullest capability. For example, all of the Devils Hurricanes games were before the new year. I don't put a lot of stock in that.
Right.
But the Blues and the Jets have played recently. Those games I pay more attention to.
Well, to confuse it and blur the lines even more, let me give you some regular season numbers on these two, because this will really make you not have an idea of what the hell is going to happen. Winnipeg won the season series 3-1. They outscored St. Louis 11-10. The road team won 3 of 4 games. So there you go, TJ. I ask you, what are the 3 keys for Winnipeg to win this series?
Winnipeg needs to basically show up and bring beer. This team is,
I could,
like
play
you said,
that way. Show up and bring beer.
I know, right? It's like they literally, like you said, steamrolled through the regular season. They won 56 games. There was a point in the season where they were practically unbeatable, and they just needed to do that. It was, we mentioned this earlier, it wasn't long ago when we were maybe looking at a Winnipeg rebuild, and instead it was a Winnipeg retooling. They absolutely fleeced the Kings in the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade, and that was the start of something special in Winnipeg. They have all the talent. Scheifele, Connor, Hellebuck, they got everybody they need. That defense led by Josh Morrissey is outstanding. They just need to do Winnipeg Jet things, and they'll be fine. They need an outstanding series out of Connor Hellebuck, which sounds like it's going to be easy. But Last year, Connor Hellebuck wins the Vezina Trophy, and they got just blown out of the barn by Colorado in 5 games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I'm glad you brought that up. I hate that word, by the way. Glad is just an absolute atrocity to the English language. But Connor Hellebuck, the other guy on the other side between the pipes, Jordan Binnington, isn't too bad himself. Nope. And it's a matter, I think, of which Binnington we get. Give me 3 keys for the Blues here to extend the curse of the President's Trophy, if you will.
So the Blues need to ride the Binnington train. I mean, he's over the past 2 months, when the Blues have been playing desperate hockey, there was the point where they were like, I think they were 6th or 7th in the Central. Chicago was 8th. They were awful. And then they just got rolling. They just started doing. It looked a lot like 2019 for the St. Louis Blues. And Jordan Binnington, who, love him or hate him, has a Stanley Cup title. He needs to be the better goaltender, and that's a lot. That's saying a lot, because Connor Hellebuck was almost unbeatable this year, but Connor Hellebuck has not had the playoff success that goes along with his regular season success. Jordan Binnington has. They also can't take penalties because
don't remind me.
They also can't take penalties because Winnipeg's penalty power play was number 1 in the league, almost 30%. Yeah,
and we talk about this all the time in every sport. You see the team that's got to make the desperate push to the playoffs, and they have to get hot, and they have to stay hot at the right time, and they have to play desperate. And I think that's what makes, the President's Trophy thing. Some people put stock into it, some people don't. For those of you that have been sleeping under a rock, if you will, nobody that's won the President's Trophy has been able to get the job done. And we're talking about a long period here on this. I think it was mid-80s the first time we saw the President's Trophy.
It's been a while.
It's hot start for the Jets, desperate finish to the season for the Blues. I think if I'm comparing the 2 number 1 seeds here between Washington and Winnipeg, I have a hell of a lot more confidence, I think, in Winnipeg than I do in Washington. And that's because of Hellebuck. But I also am very fearful in that same regard, because St. Louis has been playing desperate hockey because they had to get in. Now, that was all fine and good, and it made for a fun end to the season, but I don't know how that translates going forward. Max got the Jets in 7. I think that the desperation from the Blues, we're going to see it, how they had to, and when I say desperation, what we were just talking about, how they had to finish the season and they had to win everything, get in playoff mindset, get in playoff mode. But then you have this awkward little stretch here, and I can see about halfway through game 2, that desperate run from the Blues to get into the playoffs, and the tank's on empty. I think Winnipeg wins this, and I think they win it very quickly. I think they win it in 5 games.
I like the Jets. Couple big question marks for me are whether Nick Ehlers is going to be able to play. He's week to week right now, and Gabe Vilardi is also, he's skating, but he's probably not going to go today. May go later in the series. If they can get healthy, I think this goes quick. I said 6. I think the Jets are going to win it in 6. I think it's put up or shut up for Hellebuck at this point. It is what it is.
Put up or buck up, son. All right, let's go. Dallas and Colorado. Man, you talk about 2 teams that are in 2 different worlds right now. Jason Robertson, lower body injury, suffered in game number 82, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Their very last game of the season is the point of the story. No point for him to be out there. Hockey players are different. He's going to miss the first two. He is, quote, week to week. Dallas 0-5-2 in their last 7 games coming into the postseason. That is not the kind of hockey you want to be playing. I think a month ago, a lot of people thought that this very likely had a potential of being a Western Conference final. And then, like a lot of people that are still getting used to the newer version of this playoff format, I know it's been a few years, but forgot that this was very likely going to be a first round matchup, and that's exactly what it is. Now, Dallas will have home ice in this, and this is one of our games. This will actually be the second game today, I believe, if I don't have my schedule confused. It's on the bottom of the damn screen. The Mikko Rantanen Bowl, as we've already kind of alluded to here. I've got high hopes. I've got high hopes for this team out of Denver, if you catch the pun, not pun there. Colorado did win the season series 2-1. Dallas, TJ, they are leaking oil and leaking oil bad at the worst time of the year.
100% they are. And you want to see teams go into the playoffs with their best team on the ice. And the fact that they're going to be missing Robertson and Heiskanen at this point, that's just, it's good news in that it gives opportunities to other players. Like, this is a big moment for Thomas Harley. He had a big Four Nations tournament. He's been pretty good the second half of the season. He's going to be in charge of shutting down the McKinnon line. So this is going to be a huge opportunity for him. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I don't know anybody's going to be able to shut down that line. But yeah, you don't like to come into the playoffs on a 7-game skid. That is no good.
No, it's not at all. And you know, I think there's Mac referenced this a bunch of times in the 5-hole this year. Like, the most recent one that pops into my head is, you know, every year we get to the Stanley Cup playoffs, and every year Dallas is just ready to go at the right time, and they have been. This Dallas Stars team is not that Dallas Stars team. This is not the team that a lot of people picked at the beginning of the year to win the cup. This is not the team that went out and assembled the on-ice Avengers. That's the team they were playing in Colorado. And again, you know, you just mentioned it, like, with Heiskanen out, when we flip it over to the other side, you're playing and don't at us if you want to. I mean, if you disagree with me, fine. I might tell you you're an idiot, because the two best defensemen in all of hockey paired together are wearing Avalanche jerseys in this one. You're not gonna, without your leading scorer, you're up that creek without that paddle. And oh, by the way, that's Makar and Taves on the backside there. Like, you're screwed. I think for a series that should be full of hype and full of excitement here, not to jump the shark, if you will.
Hey-o.
Yeah, I was just coming out of my mouth. I was like, yeah, I hate this one. It's already on its way out. I got to let it go. Granlund, Mikael Granlund is going to replace Robertson on that first line. And I'm not throwing shade here, man, but I think Dallas is probably not long for the first round here.
I think a lot of this is going to a lot of the overcoming the loss of even 2 games, man, against, if Colorado gets up to Cobb, then you got to win 4 and 5 against a team with Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar and Gabriel Landeskog probably coming back. Even though he hasn't played in 2 seasons, like, just having him out there.
Just wearing the sweater, I don't think it matters.
But that's going to put a lot of pressure on a guy like Jake Ottinger, whose every save is going to be magnified in this series. And yeah, we're not throwing shade at Dallas per se. I mean, Matt Duchene has been incredible this year. He's been a point-a-game player. I've seen a lot of comments about Mikko Rantanen not cutting it so far in Dallas. The dude's put up 18 points in 20 games, and he's had to learn a third system in this season. So I think Rantanen will be fine. But yeah, this is going to be a huge series for Wyatt Johnston. This is going to be a huge series for Mason Marchment and Michael Granlund. Guys a little bit lower down the roster who need to perform. And what about Jamie Benn? Jamie Benn.
Mm-hmm.
He's got this might be his last kick at the can at this. So this is huge for the Stars.
Yeah, and I think if you needed any other reason to believe in this Colorado team, just look at what Chris McFarland did in the middle of the season. Like, not even the middle of the season. I guess it was kind of the middle of the season. He basically said, the hell with this entire goaltending situation. Who's dumb enough to take great value Georgiev? Well, I know the answer to that friggin' question. They get Mackenzie Blackwood from the Sharks, and then they keep going, and they revamp everything. And then you add Nelson and Lindgren and Coyle. It just, dude, this team, I don't think enough people understand what they've put together. And as you see literally right now on the bottom of the screen, as of waking up this morning, which I hated, Colorado's still the favorites to win the cup. And I think it's for very, very good reason. Before we go back to the Stars, give me 3 reasons why Colorado wins the series.
Their top line is just, they are so fast. So fast, and they possess the puck so much that it is mind-blowing. And if you're gonna watch this series, try and watch the players moving without the puck. I know it's hard because of TV, but try and watch the chemistry that this team has without the puck. I mean, they are literally thinking at 2 and 3 seconds ahead of every other team on offense. It is incredible to watch. They definitely have the best offensive players in this series. They have the best defensive players in this series. And their goaltenders, Blackwood and Wedgwood, I mean, we're probably going to see Blackwood the entire time. But you're right. They took their goalies and just shipped them off to wherever. And they're like, okay, we'll take these guys and see what we can do. And they've produced. They've been great. I've been surprised. I think this is exactly what Mackenzie Blackwood needed after spending time in San Jose. No offense, but he gets back to a playoff contender. This looks really good for Colorado right now.
Yeah, and the Blackwood situation with the Sharks was pretty point blank simple. I mean, the Sharks have their answer if you ask a question. Not many people get that one. Blackwood just didn't fit with the timeline, and they found a willing participant. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, obviously Georgiev, and we had a great thread going on our X account at Mike Aranda Show with some fans on just the Georgiev situation. So Blackwood just didn't fit the timeline of the Sharks. Yep. So Mackenzie Blackwood gets the freaking gift of all gifts, and you go from the bottom of the West to a team that very likely could win the Stanley Cup. I mean, that's a hell of a jump, and I'm rooting for him. Love the dude. I mean, miss him between the pipes for the Sharks, obviously, but the Sharks are on a different timeline, and I think that was the perfect spot for him. Mac actually thinks this series is going to go 7. He's got Colorado winning 4-3. I think as much as I've enjoyed watching this Dallas Stars team play, especially over the last couple of years, I think they're going to be lucky to get a game. I've got Colorado in
5. The one thing that concerns me about Colorado is they have to win faceoffs. They're 28th in the league in winning faceoffs, which is kind of incredible to think about when you look at how good their offense is. I mean, they're 6th in goals for, but just knowing the firepower that's out there, that kind of surprises me. So I'd like to see that improve a little bit. But if Robertson can't get back, I don't like Dallas's chances. I have Robertson coming back for game 3, but I have the Stars losing this series to the Avs in 6.
All right, let's go to the center of entertainment, sports, and everything else this weekend. Sports and entertainment. WrestleMania weekend. There's also a hockey series that starts just across the highway from where WrestleMania is going to be played at the T-Mobile Arena, and it is the Vegas Golden Knights who somehow, some way, mysteriously, quietly kind of worked their way through the West this year. Congratulations to Mark Stone. A fantastic achievement not going on LTIR this year. And they get a Minnesota team that pretty cool moment to see them get their spot. And I'm happy that Minnesota was able to clinch their spot in the way they did. Your participation trophy will be in the mail. This Vegas team, Tej, is, at the top, my surprise this year was how good and deep the West was. I'm a little concerned that there's not a whole lot of people talking about this Vegas team because that seems to be where they thrive the best.
Yeah, this team is so loaded, and you're right. They just quietly went about their business. Here's the reason you missed it, because Mark Stone was on the injured list at the beginning of the year, instead of the end of the year.
Hey,
and
we do this here, they won't notice what we do here.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what happened. This team's loaded. They're loaded. They have an owner who spends money. They go and get players. People want to play there because the organization is so great. I am not going to throw shade at this team at all. They finished with 110 points, and the Capitals won the conference with 111. And they seem to get all the attention. And meanwhile, Vegas is just doing their thing, and here you go, 50 wins. But this team's freaking loaded.
Yeah, absolutely loaded. And Minnesota had a good year. I mean, they played very well when Kaprizov was out, and they actually were. I mean, God forbid, there was a time where we were hearing a little bit of chatter that they might actually make a run at the top spot in the conference. It didn't end up working out that way. And I don't like doing this because you got to the playoffs for a reason. I'm going to ask you because I'm not really sure if there is an answer to this question, because I don't see one. Is there any way in hell that Minnesota pulls the upset?
Yeah, there actually is. But they are going to have to play basically 4 of the best games that they have played this entire season. And they have so they're going to get a win in this series. They will do it. They're going to have to play the best games of their lives 4 times. Vegas totally blew them out of the water this entire season. They swept the series, and it wasn't even close. I like Kaprizov. He's playing better. He's got his sea legs back from underneath him. Eriksson Ek is a good center. They don't have the center depth to match up with Vegas. I mean, when Vegas is going to roll out Eichel and Carlson and like, it is borderline unfair. Vegas's defense, they're absolute gigantors with Theodore and Hannafin. It's unfortunate for Minnesota that they drew Vegas, is the way I look at it. Is there a way? Yes, there is. But their goaltending is going to have to be outstanding. It's reminds me that, like, it's going to have to be low scoring. You got to match up you got Marco Rossi, who's going to match up on at center, and he's got to be better than Jack Eichel 4 times. You have to have Eriksson Ek be better than Eichel 4 times. You have to have Kaprizov just score goals like it's going out of style. And Minnesota's injured on the back end. I don't see how Minnesota competes.
Yeah, we just talked about the Avalanche, and between Makar and Taves, like, the best defensive pairing in hockey. Vegas might have the deepest defensive group in hockey in front of Adin Hill. Like, hey, congrats, Minnesota. Mac thinks that Vegas actually has the easiest draw of any team. Again, these are straight his words here. He's got 4-1 Vegas. I agree with him. I've got 4-1 Vegas, and I was hesitant to give Minnesota 1, but Vegas is going to get the bad bounce somewhere. So I've got Vegas 4-1.
Look, Minnesota is in a great spot. They have great young players. Kaprizov is a great piece to build around. I'm a little concerned about what they're going to do in goal, and the defense with Brodin out is a little concerning. But this team finally has they can shed all the dead money from the dumb contracts they gave to Suter, and now I can't think. It's off the top of my head now. Anyways, it's too early for me too. So they're like a year away. I think they're going to be great next year. This isn't their time. I got the Golden Knights in 5.
There's your warning. Mackenzie's got signal again. Hey, can I interest you in one last series and one that you have not seen in like 11 months?
Sure.
How about the LA Kings and the Edmonton Oilers? What a fascinating matchup in the first round. This would be fantastic if it wasn't the 72nd time in a row that we've had to watch this. That being said, I think we might have a little bit of a difference in who's hammer and who's nail this year. And if you look at the season series, we just talked about this. Do you put stock? Do you not put stock? If you do put stock and you look at the season series, you're liking the LA Kings here.
Yeah,
that's if you do.
Yes. Yes. Well, and I'll give you a few reasons momentarily, but the Kings have the last team they wanted to see was the Oilers, and the last team you want to see is the Oilers, especially when they have 97 and 29 at peak efficiency, which they don't right now. Sure. And you also don't want to take on an Edmonton Oilers team that has Matthias Ekholm on the ice, which they don't. And last year, I thought Edmonton got a little bit of lightning in a bottle because of how well they played in the latter part of the season, and then they just continued that into the playoffs, and then they turned into this juggernaut at one point. But if you're the Kings right now, you love your chances, and and as much as you don't want to play a team for the 4th straight year after losing to them 3 times in a row, this might be the time to get them.
I think it might be the time to get them, and I'm going to give you 2 words for exactly why I think this is the time they finally might get through. Darcy Kuemper. Because we've seen this a few different times here. But Kempe, Fiala, you mentioned this a bunch of times this season, especially late in the season. Drew Doughty being healthy, this team, and trust me, I know better than anybody, this team is a different team with Drew Doughty on the ice. And we talked about it with Florida earlier, the long run, the long postseason run. We've seen the physical effects. I'm sure I'm not a doctor. I just play one on YouTube. We used to get to say play one on the radio, but I just play one on YouTube now. How much of those injuries had a little bit to do with just general wear and tear? And it's not a knock on anybody. It's just it's what happens. Why do we see teams struggle to ever win back-to-back Super Bowls, struggle to even make it to back-to-back Super Bowls? You mentioned something earlier in referencing the Buffalo Bills. My version of the Buffalo Bills is this LA Kings team. And Draisaitl and McDavid. I've been waiting. I've been holding this for the entire show. That's your Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes if you're the LA Kings. And enough is enough. Is you just get to that point. I mean, you know it. We all know it between coaching, between watching these series and everything else. I get it. The Oilers have 97 and 29. But eventually the puck gives you the bounce. And I really, really think if LA finally can get through Edmonton, this is their best chance to do it. What do the Kings have to do to beat the Oilers?
It's
get you at all the games. Done. We'll make it happen.
It's very simple. You need to shut down the big guns because it's very similar.
You need to score more goals than the other team.
The Edmonton Oilers are 48-0 when they outscore their opponents this year. But they're 0-34 when they don't. The Oilers and the Maple Leafs are very similar teams. They have the big guns, and then you have everybody else. One of the things about the Oilers that we complain about often is that they don't get secondary scoring. They got great secondary scoring last year in the playoffs from Dylan Holloway, who is not there this year because he got offer sheeted by St. Louis. In the meantime, they picked up Jake Wallman. They picked up Wallman from San Jose. He's going to have to step in and play a big role, especially if Ekholm is out. You've got Lieutenant Corey Perry there, who seems like he's going to try and be the hero. Which, yeah, I'm holding my breath.
I'm muting my microphone. I'm going to be the better person here. I'm muting my microphone.
But like this team is the Oilers have completely regressed in offense this year. I don't think it's a coincidence that McDavid missed 15 games, but Zach Hyman went from 50 plus goals to 27 this year. There's got to be a reason why. Is it just McDavid? I don't know. I think teams have got a blueprint to beat the Oilers now. So yeah, this is going to be, like you said, if the Kings have to play if the grand plan, if the grand design is in order to get to the Cup final, you have to beat the Oilers. This is the year to do it.
Yeah, I agree with you. 100%. So Vegas Mac has the Oilers in 6. You know, I think there's 2 big things that the Oilers get in this series. And it's 2 wins and they lose 4-2. I've got the LA Kings to finally slay their personal dragon.
Look, we're expecting McDavid and Draisaitl to be ready. I'm expecting the Oilers to bring everybody. Evan Bouchard had a coming out party in the playoffs last year. Darnell Nurse, he's just got to do his job. Ekholm is a huge loss. I don't like, for the Oilers, I don't like their goaltending. I think that it's not really that great. I don't like their depth. And the Kings lost 6 times at home this year. 6. I'm taking the Kings. I have the Kings winning in 7. I think it's a long series, but I think the Kings win every game at the Crypt, and that's enough to get it done.
Wait a minute. You picked Montreal, right?
No, I picked Washington.
Okay. All right. I thought this was going to set up great because we both have the Kings. He's got the Oilers. Now, as we get into it again, we're going to have a couple of these scattered throughout the postseason, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays on our channel. You will see your normal hockey content as you normally will. Sorry, literally a bird flew into my office window here. That was distracting. It was probably San Jose going, let us into the playoffs. Vegas Mac is going to go with, as my phone decides to not help anything. Mac is going with Colorado over Edmonton, Tampa Bay. I'm just going to give you his final is Tampa Bay and Colorado, and he's got Colorado to win the Cup. So, that being said, as we look at this as a whole, I'm not going to do it. I can't do it. Should I do it? Can I do it? I don't know. I'd love to see Carolina get to the Cup final, Teach. I really, really would, because I think you're going to see some big-time changes there if they don't.
I agree.
I think they have what it takes to get there. But I'm going to go way the hell off the reservation here. Their Stanley Cup final will be Colorado and Montreal And Montreal is going to bring all the hope of Canada that we saw last year and get high and party because there's only hockey and basketball. The Broncos are on the come up in Denver. The Rockies should be just fired into a ball with the sun or whatever the hell you say. I've got Colorado over Montreal. Stick that in your pipe and smoke it, Mackenzie. Give me your final, your Stanley Cup final, TJ.
I don't have a red team coming out of the East. I have Tampa Bay. I have Tampa Bay coming out. Who is Robert McKenzie? I have Tampa Bay coming out of the East. I have Vegas coming out of the West.
Interesting. If I was actually going to seriously make a pick, I love the possibility of a Vegas-Tampa matchup. I don't know. I don't know what it is about Montreal. Here's the irony. And you see this in the NBA too. The East, throw something at the wall and see what sticks. The West, throw something at the wall and see what sticks. The difference to me in both the NBA and the NHL is we're into the postseason here, is I think there's only a team or two in the East. So I could see the lightning in the bottle run out of the East. And that's why, because the odds are ridiculously good for Montreal to win the Cup, as you see at the bottom of the screen. And B, I just don't think it really matters who comes out of the East. I will promise you one thing. Colorado or Vegas win the Cup. That is an absolute 1,000% Mike Arana guarantee. So Mac is going with Colorado. I am going with Colorado. I almost said it. I couldn't do it. And you, again, for the record?
I've got Vegas. I don't see how their depth is matched here. I think they're going to make a run.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how this thing plays out. And guess what? In less than 4 hours, sorry, can't do math forward in my head. We don't have to wait any longer, and we can see. So again, we'll pop in on a bunch of these throughout the playoffs here for the Stanley Cup, and the best thing. You know what? Screw it, Mackenzie. The Canadians win the Cup. Just because by the time we get out of this, you won't be able to comment anymore. So boom! Plenty of these to just scatter around. We'll keep you informed. Again, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, whatever's going on with the hockey schedule, you will get our stuff. The face-off, as much as Mac wants the face-off to end, it is not ending. It will continue through the ever-long first round of the postseason. For all the people behind the scenes, for Vegas Mac, who's wearing out his thumbs and his phone right now, TJ, enjoy the hell out of this, brother, because this is a great time out of the year. For everybody behind the scenes, we will wrap with you soon. We're out.